Recording is started.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission. Today's date is August 25th, 2025, and the time is 5:03-ish p.m. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask those present to turn off their cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet upon the front table. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures the commission will follow tonight. First, the commission will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items. Then for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The planning and zoning staff will then present the staff report, including the staff recommendation. Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will hear comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the commission. The commission shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the commission. The commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any commission member who has an ex parte communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respective agenda item. With that being said, let's see, the first item on the agenda is roll call. So let the record reflect that we have all commissioners here tonight. Next item on the agenda is public comment on matters not on the agenda. I see no one here.
No one on the phone.
No one on the phone. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 4, approval of the minutes from the previous. We have no corrections. Oops, what happened there?
I think it went off.
If we have no corrections or additions to that, I'd entertain a motion.
I motion that we accept it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Tom is going to let the record reflect. Tom is going to abstain. Okay, next item on the agenda, moving quickly here. Item number 5, review of conditional use permit application from Steve Sitzman to operate a borrow pit for earth materials in order to level the property for future development of a home to be built on parcel number 89460810010. Dan, do you want to read that information into the record, please?
Yes, so Steven Sitzman has applied for this conditional use permit from Woodbury County for this borrow pit, pretty much for development purposes so that he can transition the property over for future suitable development for the property. So it's just basically not a long-term endeavor. It's just a transaction to get the property in due order. This particular property footprint he has presented is less than 1 acre in size, and being 1 acre, you don't hit a lot of the threshold through the DNR. So this is pretty much to probably in the future facilitate a building permit per se. And I did receive kind of one phone call from a neighbor at this asked about the process, but I returned their call, left a message, and kind of gave them a detailed background on what was in here, but I never heard anything further. Otherwise, no other major public comments. For the record, this activity, a borrow, commenced prior to a permit earlier in the year. And I worked with the applicant on stopping the project, and he monitored the proceedings that took place this summer through the Board of Supervisors and the Zoning Commission Board of Supervisors that approved the agricultural estates as being acceptable for a conditional use permit for consideration. And once that process completed and this become part of the ordinance, Mr. Sitzman applied and followed through the expectations as far as applying for this application and understanding what he needs to do as far as the dirt project and removing it to facilitate the house. So we don't anticipate this going higher than the DNR threshold, which kind of gives him flexibility in terms of completing the project for that respective footprint. And so what staff presented in the packet, of course, is Mr. Sitzman's responses to the application. And of course, the staff analysis kind of summarized some things that we should always kind of keep in mind for borrow pits, such as permit expiration, the point of erosion control, silt fences, those type of things that normally fall under DNR permitting. But if it don't go up to the DNR level, we would still expect that the property ends up in good shape and doesn't have any runoff or adverse effects on any abutting properties. He has provided a haul route, of course, returning the property back to a suitable area such as reseeding, stabilization would be important. Hours of operation so that they generally do it at a reasonable time and close out the project. Again, this one is very a quick transactional. It's not a perpetual borrow pit. So if they get through it and get it returned back, that's ultimately, I think, the goal of the property owner. So with that said, staff would recommend approval over to the Board of Adjustment under consideration of what kind of was laid out in there. And I would like to point out that the applicant is here tonight to speak on his behalf as well.
Stephen, would you like to add anything more to that information? No comments? Okay. That leaves commissioners, if you have questions or comments. Pretty straightforward. Everybody's saying, yep, straightforward.
I get one question. Your intent is to possibly build another house on the lot.
Yeah.
Steve, could you push those two buttons on the thing?
Okay. What I had is, I had about 5 acres, not enough to split. And so what I did is I purchased 3/4 of an acre from the neighbor. So I got enough that I can split it. I've got a huge house now, no kids anymore. So I'd like to put a small house over on that. I'll split it then and sell that off.
So then you'd have enough to meet the 2 acre.
And then I have enough to meet that. And now the state has made it to where you can build a second house on a, but I still want it split. I wouldn't want to keep it on the same anyway. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion if there were to that point. Don't fight over it, guys.
I would make a motion to recommend to the Board of Adjustment to approve this, that all conditions can and should be met.
Are you referring to the ones that I kind of laid out on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
analysis? If you want me to bring those forward, that's
To
part of your
the
motion.
commission, yeah.
Sure.
I'll second.
We need clarification on that.
Yeah,
Or
let's just clarify, including the staff comments.
All right, make a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Adjustment and include the staff comments.
Yeah.
To the board.
you don't want specifics. You want,
Yeah.
that's good enough.
As presented in the
As
packet.
presented in the
Okay.
packet, sorry about that.
So like the hours of operation, the haul route, the expiration dates, all of those things.
Yeah, and we can outline that in your letter too.
Okay.
I can actually bring it forward in the letter and
Okay.
then.
So you'll bring all staff comments forward.
Yeah, we'll highlight those in the letter and then you can of course review it and
Right.
see if it meets approval there.
Okay. And then also the requirements for larger projects. I
Yeah,
think
if-
include that as well.
Yes, so if he finds that it goes over the acre, then it'll trigger that permit. So it would be expected of him to do that.
Okay, just so long as we're all clear
Yeah.
as far as what we're asking or permitting. Okay, everybody's good with that? Okay, we got a motion. Could I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. It goes to the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah, so Steve, for the record, as you got in your letter, this will go to the Board of Adjustment and that'll be next Wednesday at 5:00 PM. It's a special meeting on Wednesday because of Labor Day holiday. It got pushed to Wednesday, so that's when the official public hearing will be for that. So,
Okay. Thank you for coming tonight and
Thank
your participation. Okay, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a public comment again on matters not on the agenda. Seeing and hearing none, no one on the phone still. We will move on
okay.
to staff update.
Okay, a little bit of work here for the staff update. A few things were laid out in front of you that I'd like for you to consider receiving into the record. The first one would be the grain bin notification that was written to the zoning commission. That's just a formalized form of communication. I think it's imperative that the board see it and it's included in the record. So I would ask that that be considered to be included in the record.
Okay, we need a motion to receive.
I'd make a motion to receive the letter from RAC regarding grain bins.
Okay, a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 It has been received.
Okay, thank you. The next thing is, you might recall last month, the LED billboard kind of took multiple trips back to the zoning commission. And the Board of Adjustment ultimately did approve it at the alternative location number 2, which was up more so in the corner. So they ended up approving a variance and a conditional use permit. So that's been issued and they're going to work toward their project. There was some framework in the packet for the commission that kind of showed some exchanges of the DOT. And I wanted to ask that these comments actually under the DOT and others did not appear in the grid on the packet, but the exchange that happened along with the DOT did. And I just simply want to get that in the record and just ask that that be received into the record, that the DOT officially did comment on that from that perspective.
Okay, so we need a motion to receive.
I'd make a motion to receive the Iowa DOT comments regarding the billboard on Highway 20 from Kevin Heiss.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, same sign. That was unanimous.
Okay, and now the next part is the Board of Supervisors tomorrow night. We're kind of a little bit ahead of them. This is, I laid a document in front of you, which is their official agenda request document. And what this is this is when something gets put on the board agenda. And the board agenda tomorrow night has this directive sponsored by Supervisors Bittinger and Nelson that's going to ask the zoning commission to move forward on studying adding public service garages as a conditional use option. Right now, that's prohibited under the land use summary table. And when we go down the line, there's many uses that are far more intense than a public service garage. And we have things such as police and fire and emergency that all kind of fall under that category. And what's happened is when we analyze our communities as a whole, and for example, our county engineer has been looking at potential sites in the communities for various service garage scenarios on where we locate the service garages. And if you look very carefully at the Woodbury County Comprehensive Plan, we don't have a lot of support in the comprehensive plan for putting limited industrial districts right up abutting to cities and communities. We can look at the individual cities and what their comp plans say, but most of ours are either kind of rural residential or agricultural. And when we look at various sites, we don't want to eventually put the supervisors or the commission in a situation where we're asking to rezone to limited industrial which is actually the district that was put on to all of our other secondary road sites, many of which were pre-ordinance, is my understanding. And because if you look real carefully, we got the site there by Lawton. That's right next to residential. That's very unlikely to put limited industrial next to residential in the scheme of things in zoning. So a lot of times that pre-existed that. So let's just say, for example, Secondary Roads wants to purchase a new facility, and the only way we can have a public service garage cleanly is to rezone it over to limited industrial. It goes against a lot of the zoning principles, and you've even seen this in the Iowa State training where they talk about in our ordinance says this too. Does the potential future area, the zoning, match the comp plan? And when you go circle around most of our cities, we don't have a lot of comp plan support for the growth of those industrial areas. Now, it does put the county in a situation, a shaky situation, if you do rezone to a district that is not supported by the comp plan. So we looked at kind of the cleanest way to possibly address this is to put a conditional use in the agricultural preservation district so that can be scrutinized at the board level as far as if the county were to get in a position to buy a property and to build a facility, that could come to the zoning commission. The zoning commission could analyze it. Does it fit with the area? We'd be able to use that process to communicate with the cities and get them to comment on whether that fits with the area. And as you know, with any project, and if the Secondary Roads is going to pursue an application at some point in the future, it's going to require a lot of communication to begin with. So I'm hoping that whatever area they decide to maybe shop around or build in, that there's a dialogue where the cities kind of know what's coming out there. Now, with that said, the consideration of holding a public hearing, collecting the public input, I think it's a debate we got to understand and see what the public has to say, absolutely. But at the same time, it is a directive on looking at the need for public service garages that are under the realm of public, under government control. So the Secondary Roads Department does a significant function of serving our road system, keeping our roads up to par, the snow removal, doing the grading. So you can argue all day long that there is a need to support our infrastructure across the county there. So that's what the supervisors are going to ask the commission to hold a public hearing and provide a recommendation over to put the C in that column so that a public service garage in general could be given a fair shake in areas that are on AP versus putting us into a situation of attempting to rezone over to LI. Rezoning over to LI, as you know, would be even significant consequences as far as if it isn't part of that government use or they don't use it anymore, then you're left with an LI parcel there that gives all that industrial right in that respective area. So I think when we have a public hearing at some point, hopefully next month, according to what supervisors expect, that those things are discussed as far as those consequences. So that's what the supervisors will be directing likely tomorrow night. So I think we probably can all expect we'll have that public hearing next month.
Okay.
If everybody seems okay with that.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
Is this driven primarily because, of county needs for, facilities type of thing and that they need additional and they've got to, this is going to, basically make it easier for them to do that?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that looking at this would facilitate something where we're right now, if we look at the way it's written now, we're just kind of put in a bad spot as far as zoning. I don't think anybody likes to be in a situation where we're asked to switch to a zoning district that does not comport with the comp plan. And I will tell you, not to give Iowa State a hard time, I don't mean to do this because they do a good job with the training and everything. We've been told many times at the training that if you want to look at rezoning and your comp plan don't match up, they kind of talk about amending the comp plan, going back and amending the comp plan. Well, we've kind of talked about it as a whole with the legal council and everything. And it's quite obvious when somebody would go amend a comp plan, you switch out the comp plan and then you turn around and then you rezone it. The courts still see the same process and that's what they look at when something goes up the chain where somebody might dispute something in a specific area, even though it might give somebody more legal sound. Amending the comp plan is such a serious where you do it too often. We have 20+ year comp plans. And so it's more stable, I think, to ask the community if they're in support of switching out conditional uses. And the thing that helps me at times about the conditional uses, it's still a maybe. I mean, you still hold the reins of scrutinizing it to whether it's appropriate or not. We're not carte blanche making something totally approved. We're creating the conversation as a whole. So I think that's the path that in talking with the supervisors and receiving the direction from the supervisors, that's the optimal position. Because going back to what Steve says, if you have to make a decision on, we're going to need eventual facilities, and we're looking at the edge of Sloan, we're looking at the edge of Salix, we're looking at the edge of Sergeant Bluff, I think it's imperative that we look at the comp plan and match up the comp plans. But we also have to always look at the city comp plans too. You may notice when we get closer to the cities, we also keep an eye on the city's desires and the comp plans. And this recent comp plan that Simcoe worked on for us, I know that they kind of overlaid both, and they tried as much as possible to be compatible where the county could be much more flexible. But, you know, cities can definitely have larger ideals on where they want those things. And usually with us, we're saying residential or agriculture for the most part. So hope that helps.
You need us to receive this then.
Actually, no,
No.
I just need you to know that it's coming.
It's coming.
And it'll be on the agenda basically with working with the chair and everything. So, and I do have one more thing. You may see that the accessory dwelling unit that you looked at before is on there. We're gonna likely ask to bring that back. We jumped really fast at it in reaction of wanting to be compliant with Iowa code, because our ordinance basically restricted, oh, you can't have the second dwelling unless you go through this process. It was looked at before, but when we came back and I was talking with Joshua the other day about building permits, and the way he read into it, it has the line at the very end on the second part about being in accordance with Iowa code, the code section, basically. What we did is we basically adopted the code in there, which is fine, but then it has a reference in there about following specific building code. So we're not designed as a county to be in the building code business. And what it does is it's basically saying that the accessory dwelling situation would put us under a building code scenario. And at the same time, our housing for principal structures are not. So there's an inconsistency there. And then it goes on to say that we must issue these accessory dwellings under the same parameters and requirements of the principal dwelling. So we have a form of inconsistency there. And talking with Joshua today, he thinks that, I got to be careful how I say this, the way to retool it would be to actually adopt in the dimensions. In other words, specifically go in and say 1,000 square feet for the accessory dwelling and 50% of that. The way they wrote the legislation is the county can actually exceed or be looser on that. We could end up saying you could have a 3,000 square foot if we wanted to, but they put that into a minimum. And I think that while we're looking at this, it would be better just to go ahead and put the dimension in there so it's clear to the public. So we're not in a situation where people are challenging it, because it also says that the board by resolution or another action could look at like an interpretive sense. If Iowa code says 1,000 square feet, and then they say we could be looser on it, it says by resolution. So technically someone could come in and say, okay, can we do a 2,000 square foot? And then then folks, when I go up to the Board of Supervisors and say, hey, can we do a resolution potentially? And we could get into that questioning of it versus having clarity. So I'm gonna suggest that we hold a public hearing to clean that up so that we have consistency based on where we're at. We're not designed like the city of Sioux City to be, you know, a robust coding department. So we've got to have consistency with both how we treat the house and the dwelling. So that needs to be retooled. I know I was in a meeting a while back where some of the people, zoning officials were in, including some of the colleagues from the city, about how to respond to these accessory dwelling situation. I understand it's been a major push, as we mentioned during the original debate from many, a specific advocacy group out there has been really pushing behind it. And I think there's going to even be model ordinances coming out. I think those are much more geared for the city, but for the county where they can kind of consider how you fit it in with city requirements and county requirements. But I think I know I rushed that out there real quick as far as we got to get into compliance because the state told us we had to do this. And I guess we came into too far of compliance. So I think that it's reasonable that we bring it back in a form that makes it consistent with both the single family dwelling principal structure and the accessory, because we got to treat those the same. And again, that was from Joshua's interpretation that, okay, you technically brought the state code into the ordinance versus you just want to recognize that you can do that in the way that the incompatible with the way the principal structures are written. Now, with that said, we hold a public hearing on that. I'm going to suggest that because that's just kind of a little fix for the most part, that we look at a few other housekeeping things within the ordinance that I would say are not controversial, but our ordinance is outdated on the telecommunication towers where state code takes precedent, including Iowa Code 8C. We still have some old language in there about forced co-location, which you can't do. And so I'm going to suggest that we include that as part of the package, that we axe out things in the ordinance that are not compliant with the code. So I think we take that out. And you will also recall I sent you an email during the nuclear time leading up to the nuclear where there was a reference under the notification distance that did not meet the level of debate as far as the number being wrong. It was linked to a wrong code section. And I think it was for the telecommunication towers too. In fact, it's been out there since the beginning of the ordinance. And I'm looking through that like, wow, that number don't match. But we've always been covered by it because it's actually written into the ordinance and the other section as well. So those little things where I find those little errors, I'd like to bring back to you a set of public hearings where we look at axing things that don't make sense in that ordinance that really don't have any change to how we do business. It's just wrong and want to correct those. So that's what I have for you. So.
Great. We're going to have a busy month next month.
And you will have a minor subdivision. First time ever somebody turned one in early.
Be forewarned.
So that's all I have.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. Last thing, or second to last thing, commissioners' comments or inquiries. Do you have any comments or inquiries, commissioners? Not hearing anything. So finally, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
You know, motion and a second. Does anybody want to discuss this? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That was unanimous. I think so. About a